because with the new media marketing that really is continually evolving and growing, there's so much more room now to become a thought leader. There's so many more avenues to become a thought leader than there were before, that really there's a golden opportunity. The gates are kind of open for you, that if you can be creative and you can put your ideas down, there's going to be a lot of people following you. And that's a potential. When you become a thought leader, people do follow you, and it's at that point where people will start following you rather than you chasing them. So one of the things that we're talking about is, instead of you chasing them and getting clients, you have them come after you, and where they're knocking your door down, if you will. And so we're going to talk about that. That's a long-term plan. That's a long-term process. And at first, it takes a lot of initiative on your part. You do have to be the one that's knocking on doors. Maybe in a different way than you would have thought before, but we're going to talk about some of those. And ultimately, once you take enough initiative, it begins to come back to you. And we'll talk about just how marketing is a lot like the idea of the laws of the harvest, the sowing and reaping process. So one thing I want to just say before we get started is that it is possible for you to do this. It is possible. I'm going to tell you some good stories and some bad stories. I'm going to talk about the things that I've seen. But I can tell you one thing, it is absolutely possible. So I do have coaching clients. The clients I work with, they make more than $100,000 a year in their coaching businesses. And I understand not everybody here is a coach. That's not the point. But the idea is to show you that whatever you're doing, they make a lot. They've done well. I'm just talking about what's possible on the financial end. I do have a client that went from making $1,000 a month to $7,000 a month in a matter of 2 months. That result does not happen all the time, but for her it did, and it's continued on. And that's been for about a year and a half now. I've had other clients that paid me $30,000 a year just to coach them. Now, they were an organizational client. They weren't just a one-person show. They were actually a business. But I'm just showing you again, this is possible. Because I think in order to dream, you have to see what's possible and then go after it. You have to see what is possible and go after it and find a pathway to get you there. And so those are some of the things we're talking about. I have clients right now that have been picked up by the top publishing houses in America, and that publishing house is going to dump over $60,000 into publishing the person's book and getting into Barnes & Noble and other places and doing a lot of PR, radio, and TV stuff. I have clients that have had television ministries, and I have other clients that were not successful. I mean, that's just the truth of it. There's other clients that are not successful, and they are no longer in business. Okay? So I want to show you both sides, but I also want to say it is possible. It is possible. So I want you to think real quick for a moment where you want to be 5 years from now. Think about where you want to be 5 years from right now, 2018. In 2018, there's going to be the Olympics in Korea. Think about where you want to be right now. And if you can, write that down or speak it out or somehow acknowledge where you want to be. Because you've got to think ahead that far sometimes to know how to plan today to get you there at that time. Okay? So think about where you want to be and write that down. So picture yourself, that red part at the bottom, 5 years from now, where do you want to be? Okay? All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk to you about a couple things. One is a business philosophy, and the other idea that we want to give you today is to give you a little kickstart, kind of let's get going, kind of like you would kickstart a motorcycle. Okay, you get it going and you get started. You get off to a good start. Okay, the philosophy is something we call the 4 seasons of business. And by operating these 4 seasons, by utilizing these, it creates a ladder or a pathway for you to become, as I talked about a moment ago, that thought leader, where eventually the things that turn around on your behalf and clients and other people are knocking at your door. Okay? So, I'm going to just start hitting some things pretty good, thinking about where you're at. So I'm going to guess some things. I'm just going to take a couple guesses here. I'm going to guess that you feel like you've been called with a purpose. Okay, I'm going to guess that you feel like you've been called with a purpose. I'm going to guess that you love helping people. You enjoy helping people. I'm going to guess that you have compassion for people. There's some people you feel like you really want to help them with their cause. I'm going to guess that you want to see your gifts used. That you have some gifts. You have some talents. And you want to see them used. Okay? And I'm going to guess you probably want to make money as you do these things above. And the thing that Zig Ziglar said, he said, if you can have anything in life that you want, as long as you help enough other people get what they want. So Zig Ziglar said, you can have anything in life that you want, as long as you help enough other people get what they want. All right? So if you're called to the purpose, if you love helping people, if you want to see your gifts used and you want to use money, those things can all work together. Those things are all possible. And by helping enough other people and by utilizing your gifts, you can make the money you need to sustain your life and have the life that you want. All right? The problem or the challenge that you may have is you've been called into a business and you have a skill, you have a talent, but you don't have enough people to reach. You don't have enough people that are reaching out to you. And so, therefore, you're not able to do some of the other things that you're wanting to do. Your gifts aren't being utilized to their full capacity. You're not making the money you want. Okay? So that can be a problem. You know what your gift is. You're getting started, but you don't, you're not fully utilizing it, and there's not enough people. There's not enough people. But there really is enough people out there, but somehow you're not able to reach them, at least to this point. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Why that happens, what's the cause, and what is the solution? And we'll say this, there is a reason. There is and I'll even call it a scientific reason, the science of business, but there is a reason. There is a reason, and we can kind of diagnose that. We can kind of look and say, here's why that is the case. So if you know there's a reason, that's a good thing. Because when you start to realize what the problem is, knowing the problem is half of the solution. You're already halfway there to finding the solution. So knowing that there is a reason is a good thing. And I can just say this about myself. I can identify with you. I was first trained, and I did some ministry work even as far back as the year 2000. And then I took some coach training. In 2007, I went through coach training, and I was trained well. I loved coaching. I felt like I was called with a purpose to help others. I loved the opportunities that I did have, and when I did, I spent a ton of money over those previous years and even a couple of years after that, learning and research and training to find out what it took to have a successful business, coaching practices, or really any type of business. I spent a lot of money doing that. Went to a lot of other places. Okay? I also had a problem, and it's the same problem that I talked about a moment ago. When I finished up coach training, I had 0 clients. It was a bit frustrating. I always felt like I was on the right path, but I didn't start out that way. And there was a struggle for me. I went and I had to have a temporary solution. I drove that truck right there. I drove that truck right there, that truck that says TTR Shipping. My friend had a company, still has it, and what they do is they take copiers, and they take copiers after someone's done a lease, and they take it back to the warehouses for them to refurbish. And that's what I did. I drove from my home in Ohio to Chicago to New York to Boston, and I did all these things. In the meantime, I was away from my children, and I didn't like that situation very much. I certainly didn't want to be away from them all week, but I was. And so that was very, very difficult. And I studied the whole time what it took to begin to build a successful business. And so for me, what I did is I started working, and I went and I found out what it would take to build a business. I found what I call joint partnerships. And I went and I found other people that knew how to do it. And I either learned from them or I promoted what I was doing, and I proposed to them to share my information with their lists. And they did that. And my business began to grow. And in 2009, it started to do well. And then in 2010, I was able to have classes and bring people in and basically teach all the other coaches what I had learned from the good and the bad about business success and marketing success. And so that started to be a blessing then. And then I started working with other companies, organizations, and bigger companies in different areas that they needed help with, and so things started to work. But again, it was a challenge. It was a trial, and why I tell that little story is simply to let you know that as you're building, don't give up. Don't give up. It took a lot of persistence, a lot of determination, a lot of will, a lot of prayer, a lot of seeking the right help, a lot of planning to get to that point. And so don't give up. Keep working on yourself. Keep developing, and it's going to pay off. It's guaranteed. So there's a couple of things that we identified, through all that time, and there were some major roots to the problem of lack of clients. Major roots to the problem of not building a strong business. Okay? So I'm going to just talk about those things real quick. All right? The first thing is that people don't have the right philosophy or mindset, or I'll even use the word paradigm, of how to build a business. So people don't have the right understanding of how to do it in an appropriate way. Okay? The second thing is people don't take the right actions. And you can't take the right actions if you don't have the right philosophy. And therefore, they're not really disciplined. And the reason that is because, again, they don't have the right mindset of what it actually takes. So through the right understanding, knowing what to do and how to do it, the discipline will be there. Taking the right actions will be there on what to do. Okay? And then the last thing is people don't have the right team around them to help them stay accountable to getting their goals. Okay? Without the right team around them, it's going to be faulty as well. It's not going to work very well. Okay? So, major roots to the problem. The problem that we see is a lot of times, again, financial or sometimes emotional. We don't feel good because we don't like what we're doing. We can put our finger on it out here, but the roots are we don't have the right business philosophy and mindset. We don't take the right actions consistently, and we don't have the right people around us to help us get to our goal. A team that believes in our dream. The one thing about it, we all need encouragement. We need a team that believes in our dream. So we used to say you need a team, a dream, and a theme. If you have the right theme or the right product, the right goal, the right team, and the right dream, you're going to get there. Okay? But it takes those elements. Okay? So we're going to talk about what is that philosophy of a successful business real quick. And that's something probably many of you are looking for. Okay? The philosophy of a successful business. I'm going to look at a quote here. The power of an accurate paradigm lies in its ability to explain and predict. Stephen R. Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said that. The power of an accurate paradigm lies in its ability to explain and predict. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of a person named John M. Gottman. He's from the University of Washington out in Seattle. He has something they call the Seattle Love Labs. And he's a professor in the areas of marriage and family therapy, and he studies marriages. And he can look, and over the last 20 to 30 years, he's been bringing people in, and by watching them for 5 minutes, he's been able to predict whether they would have a successful marriage or they would divorce with a 95% accuracy. He's been able to predict watching them for 5 minutes of interaction with over 95% accuracy. That's incredible. That's incredible. You can learn even more about that in Malcolm Gladwell's book, or you can look up John Gottman. But why can he do that? Why can he predict that with such deadly accuracy? It's because he has an accurate paradigm. He sees what most people don't see. And the people that go in there certainly don't see it, or they wouldn't be struggling in the way that they do. But he has an accurate paradigm. So a paradigm has an amazing ability to explain why things are the way they are and predict what to do to get future results. So when you say you want to have a business, you need to know what to do, and you need to know how to predict the results. Okay? So we've looked, and we've, through the years, looked and saw there were some things that need to happen for someone to get to where we were showing earlier today, which is where people are really starting to knock on your doors. And there's some things that have to happen to make that happen, okay? There's some things that have to happen. For long-term success, and ultimately, again, be that thought leader, be somebody who's out there in front of people where people want to follow. When you don't have the right philosophy in business, here's what happens. People give up too quickly. People end up giving up without taking the right actions, doing the right things. Another thing that happens when they don't have the right philosophy is they don't know why they are where they are. They don't know why they're where they are. Okay, they don't have an accurate paradigm. The philosophy is not clear, or it's not accurate. Okay, and they can't predict what to do next. They can't predict what to do or where to go next. We look back in the old. There's the old biblical verse in 1 Chronicles, and said, "And the children of Issachar were men, which were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do." And what it really was saying in another verse, it says they had understanding of the seasons, and they knew what to do next. So they had a clear understanding of the seasons and what to do next. And so that's what we need to talk about. We're going to talk about the seasons and what to do next. Now, a couple of things that we have to remember are this. That in order for you to build a following, in order for you to eventually get clients, the reasons that people buy are right here. Okay? People will buy from you when they know you, they have to first know you, they like you, and they trust you. And it takes time to build that trust. So you have to prove yourself through time to those people, and you have to show, you have to give them reason to know you, to like you, and to trust you. Okay? Ultimately, networking is the same today as it was yesterday. But the difference is this: there's new media, there's new forms of communication. Well, there's all kinds. I mean, we have people on this call right now from different countries, and they're seeing the same screen that you're seeing. We're all in different places, and we all know that unless it was on a television network, probably we wouldn't be doing this 10 or 15 years ago. You wouldn't have seen my screen unless you were in some sort of business that had a satellite or had some type of device that was able to share this information, or if it was a television show. But with new media, we have to do some things differently in the sense of using the technology, but networking is still the same. You still have, people will still buy from those they know, they like, and they trust. Okay? So one of the things that we realize is you've got to create a platform for building that know, like, and trust. And that's a possibility. The principle of the 4 seasons, we developed something called the 4 seasons. When we were looking at a paradigm, we were looking at a mindset or a philosophy of business, we developed something called the 4 seasons of business, mastering all 4 seasons of business. We all know that in life there's the 4 seasons. At least here, where in the part of America that I live in, people are, we're going into the autumn, the fall time, or the harvest time. And we developed this because we realized there's some principles that work here. The heart is the ground, which the seeds are sown. The hearts are the same. So people make decisions according to those 4 seasons. And life is like agriculture, okay? You sow seeds, you reap a harvest. So what we did is we looked at these 4 seasons, and you can see there's 4 colors there. There's winter, which is represented in blue. There's spring, which is in green. There's summer, which is red. And then there's harvest, or there's the fall, the autumn, which is orange. And each season, we all know that people in agriculture will do different things. Okay? If it's the winter time, they have to plan and prepare. They can't do much when it comes to the actual ground, but they must do a lot of planning and preparing. In the springtime, that's when they're sowing seeds. They're sowing seeds of value at that time. They have to sow seeds into the ground. Okay? In the summer, they have to nurture those seeds. And in our world, we've got to nurture relationships with people. And ultimately, in autumn, they're harvesting. The seeds they've nurtured finally has come up. And in this part of, where I live, that people are harvesting apples right now. All the apple orchards are flourishing. There's pumpkins. There's all kinds of things that people are harvesting this time of the year. But remember that they were planting seeds out, in April, March, April, May, different times. They were nurturing it throughout the summer months, June, July, into August. And now that we've come into the fall months, September and October, we're harvesting. And then when it comes to winter again, the people are going to be planning for next year. They're going to go out and they're going to make their deals for next year. They're going to get a lot of their relationships built. They're going to prepare. They're going to buy new tractors and do different things that they didn't have time to do when they were doing their busy season. So we developed this, and we use this as an analogy for business. And if somebody operates this way in their business, they can be assured that they're going to get a harvest as well. They can be assured they're going to get results as well. Okay? So as you can see, what happens is we show this almost like a cycle that goes and then repeats itself. And it goes over and over and over again, just like the years of life. Okay? Every year you have to plan. Every year you have to sow. Every year you must nurture what you've sown. And ultimately you reap. And then you continue the cycle the next year. And so a farmer will do the same thing year after year. And it's the same thing in a business. You have to plan. You have to sow into people. You have to nurture the relationships, and ultimately, because of the know, like, and trust factor, people are going to want what you have to offer if they're the right people for what you have to offer. Okay. The other problem we talked about a little bit earlier is that people don't take the right actions. Maybe they don't have the right discipline. And as I mentioned, when you don't have the right philosophy or mindset or paradigm on how to build a business for the long-term success, then you can't and you won't take the right actions to get you to the successful end. If you don't have the right paradigm, you can't, and therefore you won't take the right actions to get you to the successful end. So we need to have a great understanding of what to do in each one of those seasons, of how to be productive every step of the way. Okay? So one of the solutions that we have as far as the area of planning and the discipline, the right actions are this. We've developed what we call tracking sheets and scoreboards for people. And we say this: planning, executing, and tracking the right actions and activities that will get us the results that we need in order to achieve our ultimate goal. Okay? So planning, executing, and tracking the right actions and activities that will get us the results that we need in order to achieve our ultimate goal. So what are the things we need to do? We need to plan according to the right philosophy. We need to execute based on our plan, and we need to track our activities so we know if we're on track or not in order to get to our goal. And we should be just continually increasing if we do that. Okay? Now, here's something that people don't realize, and that is how much time, talent, and treasure should you spend on growing your business through marketing? A study by SunTrust Bank a few years ago found that owners of growing businesses, that's 20% or greater of revenue growth per year, so these are businesses that were growing, spend at least 20% of their time on sales and marketing activities. Each day they schedule in time for reviewing the prospect list, reaching out in social media, working on a marketing campaign. And so as we look at that, we see that when businesses grow, people are spending time. They're blocking out time. They're putting their attention on the growth of their business. You know, and that's a difference. That's something we look at, and we've learned to say there's a difference between working in your business and working on your business. And so this is a part of the working on your business activity. So we've talked a little bit about a philosophy. We've talked a little bit about the importance of taking the right actions. So now what we have to share with you is we're going to give you a little kickstart. We're going to give you a little kickstart in the right direction through something we call Get Clients Now. Now, this is a book that's been out for a decade or so, written by C.J. Hayden, and I've been a facilitator for some time of Get Clients Now. And what it is it's a book that will give you a little, a perspective, and it will get you on track. It will give you, like we said, a kickstart, so that you start having a focus on what you need to do. Now, in order to do this, to go through the book and to learn the technique and to start tracking, it's really a 6-week process. To Get Clients Now is a 6-week process. Okay? And we'll get through that. What you would do in the Get Clients Now is you will, first of all, learn 6 things, 6 effective marketing strategies. Okay, you'll get to see that there are 6 effective marketing strategies. And you would plan according to what those strategies are. Okay? 1 is direct contact and follow-up. 2 is networking and referral building. 3 is public speaking. 4 is writing and publicity. 5 is promotional events. 6 is advertising. Okay? So what we would do is have you take and look at what are a couple of these that you're going to take and put your attention on over a 28-day period. Okay? The other thing we look at is something we'll call the universal marketing cycle. And that is, where are you stuck? As you can see here, there's a lot of things within the universal marketing cycle. But there's four main things. Number one is filling the pipeline. So that's at the top. You've got to fill the pipeline. So what we're going to do is identify, where do you need the most work? Do you need the most work in filling the pipeline? Do you need the most work in following up? That means you have some people in your pipeline, and all you got to do is follow up with them. Or do you need the most work in getting the presentation? Maybe you followed up, but you've not been able to get the presentation. Okay? Or do you need the most work in closing the sale? Maybe you've got a presentation, but you're just having a hard time closing the deal or closing the sale. And any of those can be a challenge. So what we have to do is we have to look at that pipeline and say, where are you stuck? Then we put the attention on that area of the pipeline. And so